This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You're watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
Alright everyone, I hope you're all having a fantastic weekend. If you're new to the channel, make sure you touch that subscribe button, turn it from red to grey. Touch it like you've just been given permission to do something you really shouldn't be doing, but do it anyway. So David Haye, former unified cruiserweight world champion and of course former WBA heavyweight champion of the world, believes that he may have pinpointed what has gone wrong with Anthony Joshua, and he puts it down to sparring. And we'll get straight into his statement and then we'll give away the big answer. This is what David Haye had to say. Joshua is a supreme athlete. He's probably physically superior to every other heavyweight on the planet, but his boxing experience is quite limited compared to Andy Ruiz. You can't make up 10 years of extra boxing experience with a training camp, no matter who your coach is. It's all about being in the ring with guys in sparring. I talked to Carlos as well, and he says that a lot of the time AJ does technical sparring, which means it's not full on. It's not like sparring I did. It's not like the sparring Derek Chisora does. We fight. We're just not getting paid for it. You just get fight hardened. Every round is tough. I did loads of rounds with Carlos, rounds that I lost, and they were hard rounds. I like, guys, this is not nice. I'm not enjoying this. This is really, really bad. I need to fix this up. So I come back the next day, try again, same thing happens, so I'm losing rounds. But that's what you need that. How many rounds does Joshua do where he loses? In sparring, I don't know, but I don't imagine that many. Maybe he needs rounds where he loses in sparring. For that, you need to be paying sparring partners. I had Deontay Wilder in sparring, Marius Wack, 2 rounds in, 2 rounds out, so it's horrible. I'm struggling. So come fight night, it feels a lot easier. I'm not sure if he's doing that. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But it didn't look like it on the night, and maybe he needs to incorporate some of that hard, tough sparring he does behind closed doors with bigger gloves and head guards so he doesn't get cut or damaged. David Haye's statement. So, listen, when he's talking about Carlos, he's talking about Carlos Takam. Carlos Takam, of course, had a world title fight with Anthony Joshua in Cardiff, and it was a pretty tough night at the office for AJ at times. But since then, he has had him in for sparring. So Carlos Takam is saying that Joshua does technical sparring. So he's sharpening up his skills. He's becoming a better technical boxer. AJ talks about improvements all the time. But what David Haye is saying, while all that's well and great, but come fight night, technicalities don't always win you fights. When the going gets tough, the tough really needs to get going. And you need to be tough. You need to be battle hardened. So in other words, you need to get basically your backside handed to you in sparring. Now, we know that there's like loads of sparring stories about Anthony Joshua. There has been ever since he turned pro, how he's been potentially knocked down, knocked out by Daniel Dubois, Joe Joyce, Lawrence Okoli, David Price, and so on, and more recently, Joe Dueco. Now, whether any of these stories are true or not, to be honest, it's really irrelevant, because what Joshua doesn't need to do is take any of that kind of heart. Don't worry about what it is that the public are thinking to these rumours of sparring accidents, getting beaten up in sparring, because the reality is that's where you're supposed to get beaten up. That's how you learn. You don't learn by winning rounds all the time. That's not how you learn. You learn by fighting real tough sparring partners who are putting you through the paces, who are potentially knocking you down, who are taking the wind out of you, who are handing you your backside. Guys where you think, I don't want to do any more rounds with these guys. Well, you get back in there the very next day and you do it again and again and again. So if Joshua is just doing technical based, this would actually explain a lot as to what happened with Andy Ruiz. Because when somebody started actually firing back at him properly, Joshua didn't know how to handle it, because he wasn't battle hardened. But again, there could be plenty of other things. We do know for a fact that he did have a sore neck. Even Eddie Hearn recently admitted that. Was it a slip up? Maybe, I don't know. But we do know he had a bad neck. Did he have concussion? Was he having anxiety in the changing rooms? I have no idea. And only Joshua knows all this. But ultimately, as David Haye says, and David Haye is correct, you do need hard rounds in sparring. That is when you get your backside handed to you, so you don't get it done to you on the night. It's what they say. If you prepare correctly, then the actual fight itself on fight night should be relatively straightforward. But as we've seen against Povetkin, Joshua was getting laced up by Povetkin for the first couple of rounds. It was happening at times with Carlos Takam. Joseph Parker was landing pretty clean on him at times. Dillian White knocked him way off balance. Vladimir Klitschko landed on him at will at times. So Joshua is there to be hit, and a lot of it is because he doesn't know properly, potentially at least anyway. Of course, we don't know this for a fact. Maybe he does do some hard rounds, but if he's not, I think that's what's pretty evident. Because it's great being a very good finishing puncher. So when you get an opponent hurt, you're going for the kill, you get rid of him. Problem is, when he knocked down Andy Ruiz, Ruiz wasn't hurt, and Joshua didn't see the sign. Maybe the occasion got to him. Maybe Ruiz just hit him with a lucky punch. Maybe Ruiz is just better. We don't know, and ultimately we'll see in the rematch. But what David Haye is saying is absolutely correct, and I'm sure most of you guys will agree that what David Haye is saying is correct. You need the hard rounds. Technical, that's fine, but technical is for amateurs. If you're still learning the way an amateur does, that's not really going to help you going forward. Not to take anything away from Joshua, Joshua is a fantastic fighter. People call him a supreme athlete. Well, an athlete is very good with endurance. Joshua not great with endurance. We have seen that. And again, this isn't to knock on him. I'm a huge fan of Joshua. You guys know that. But the thing is that on 23 fights, he has done amazing things in boxing. He has brought and dragged British boxing back to the forefront of the boxing news world. He's done this, along with the help of Eddie Hearn. Of course, his opponents have helped. The likes of Dillian Whyte and that around, Tyson Fury, etc. have all helped. Of course, I have. But Anthony Joshua become a unified heavyweight champion by defeating 3 champions for 3 belts. Okay, one of them was vacant against Vladimir Klitschko. But still, he did all that. He's taken the big fights, the tough fights, and he has done well. It just happened to be Andy Ruiz Jr. is either stylistically all wrong for him, so Joshua didn't prepare for him, or what it is. We don't know. But David Haye is correct. Joshua does need hard sparring rounds. He needs fighters who are going to turn up to take his head off in sparring. And it's okay to get beaten up in sparring. That's where it's supposed to happen. It's supposed to happen behind closed doors. As I said, we hear about sparring stories all the time when it comes to Joshua, but that's fine. You're supposed to get beaten up in sparring. You're supposed to be taking on opponents where you are struggling with them. If you're taking on opponents where you could quite easily outbox them, win round after round quite comfortably, what good is that really doing you? He needs to work on endurance. He needs to lose some muscle mass. Again, me, like most boxing fans, we have the answer, but in reality, we probably don't, right? We're like football fans from that sense. We're managers, we're agents, we're transfer scouts, we're all that kind of stuff. But in reality, we're not. It's all just opinion. Only Joshua will know, only Rob McCracken and the whole AJ team will know what happened in truth and how they're going to do to fix it. But I do agree, he does need tough rounds. If he's not getting tough rounds, then he needs tough rounds. He needs to be bringing in sparring partners who are there to try and take his damn head off. Not only to mimic his next opponent, which of course he does need to do. There's no point, he's fighting Andy Ruiz Jr. next, so bring in Tyson Fury. Do you know what I mean? There's no point. It's totally different dynamics. So he needs to bring in a Joseph Parker. He needs to bring in a Adam Karnacki. Joe Dueco was a good example of that. So these are the kind of guys that he needs, but he needs to bring them in earlier on in the camp. Not leave it till the last couple of weeks before the fight. Because you're not going to learn too much in the last weeks. You've got a 16-week camp. Use it to your full advantage. It's great doing the road work. It's great doing the exercises and the lifting weights. Bodies don't win fights. And, that's the truth of it. Joshua may look great. You know what? When he takes his top off. My wife wished that I would look like that, right? But fact is, I don't. But the thing is, that isn't going to win a fight, is it? You've got to have a lot more to it. Now, I don't buy the whole thing, Joshua, he got smoothed out. We didn't get smoothed out. He got dropped 4 times. And a lot of it, unfortunately, comes from Tyson Fury fans, which is a shame because aren't we all British? Shouldn't we all be supporting Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, and Dillian Whyte? Shouldn't we all be supporting them and then maybe choose a side when they fight each other? I think most British boxing fans doing that. Hey, listen, I don't know. Maybe this is my growing up watching football, okay? We just have that natural rivalry. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But I do feel that Anthony Joshua needs to change something. But again, I don't know. No, I don't know Joshua. I've never spoken to Joshua. I'm not good enough, right? But the fact is that from the outside looking in, he didn't look right against Andy Ruiz. And is David Haye right? Well, potentially. David Haye's been around the block a bit. People may criticise, well, what is it that David Haye knows? Because he fell apart on a couple of times on fight night. It's true he did, but David Haye has been fighting the likes of Andy Ruiz pretty much his whole career. Why? Because a lot of cruiserweights have the same kind of hand speed as Andy Ruiz. So David Haye would know how to prepare for somebody like Andy Ruiz. If I was Anthony Joshua, David Haye is not a bad shout to bring into camp. Maybe for a bit of sparring. Maybe for a bit of a sit down, have like a couple of hours chat with him. Pick his brains a little bit. Do the same with some legends. Do the same with whoever. You know, bring these guys in. Chat to them. What would you do in my situation? What was it that you done to prepare? Because Joshua needs that engine. His punch resistance was terrible on the night. Absolutely terrible. Again, is that something that you could really train with? Potentially. I mean, if your training is correct, then your punch resistance should just come along with it. Listen, you can't train a chin, but there's nothing wrong with Joshua's chin. Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. We've seen Joshua get hit by much bigger punches and he kept on coming forward. But just happened to be on that night, things didn't go to plan. Anyway, I'll put the article in the description box. Of course, you guys give me your thoughts as to what David Haye says. Do you think that David Haye's right? Maybe Joshua isn't doing his sparring wisely. Just doing technical sparring is great to a certain point of view, but in camp, you should be training to fight a certain opponent, and you need your sparring partners to come in there and potentially take your damn head off and give you some hard rounds. Maybe Joshua already is. We don't know. But anyway, you drop your thoughts below about it. Click thumbs up and, of course, subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.